Ave Maria, and welcome to Divine Poetry, a series that explores the chronological parallels between the history of the Catholic Church and the Old Testament. If you're new to this concept, go back and watch my interview with Kevin Davis. The link is in the video description below. To make things more simple, I have divided up church history and the Old Testament into 8 color-coded time periods. Below you can see a scrolling bar with the names, dates, and the Old Testament books for each period. Use this timeline to guide you in each video. The color frame of each video will match the time period that we're discussing. Now, let's start today's episode. Hello, and welcome to episode 16 of Divine Poetry. So in today's episode, I want to finish off the series for the month of May, in which we have been I've been showing the parallels, prefigurements, or the foreshadowings of Our Lady in the Old Testament, primarily concerning stories of the Ark of the Covenant as how they would relate to specific Marian apparitions in church history. I have a book on this. It's called Marian Apparitions in the Old Testament, and you can find it on this website right here, our website for the books. I do apologize about the price. It's like $7.99, and I can't make it much cheaper because it's a color book, and the cost of printing color books is more expensive. So I'm barely making a profit on these books, but I do present them because I think it's just it's a quick and easy, colorful way to show such a glorious topic. But if you also can find them on my website too. You can just download PDFs, or I have videos about them as well. So there's other ways to view the information. Okay, so today I do have 2 topics to present. One of them is going to be similar to our last topic in last week's video, where I presented Our Lady of the Miraculous Medal as having absolutely astounding correspondences and parallels with the story of Samuel and the Ark and it being stolen by the Philistines. So that was last week. Today, I want to do the story of Our Lady of Guadalupe and the flowers that bloom before her miraculously overnight, the roses, and how that has also amazing parallels with the story of Aaron's rod that blossoms miraculously before the Old Testament Ark of the Covenant. So that's one topic. And then the second one I want to get into is something that I'm sure you've all heard of before. It's Holy Wisdom as a prefigurement of Our Lady. So Our Lady is prefigured by the Ark of the Covenant in the Old Testament, and that's well-established Catholic thought. And also she's a new prophetess. That's also a very well-established Catholic thought. But also, she's also Holy Wisdom. And to prove this, St. Louis de Montfort wrote a book specifically on that topic. The book is called The Love of Eternal Wisdom by St. Louis de Montfort. And so I'll get into that later in this video. All right, so to start with, let's do Our Lady of Guadalupe. I'm going to read the passage from the book of Numbers to establish the story, and then we'll move on from there. Okay, this is from Numbers 17, 6 to 13. And Moses spoke to the children of Israel, and all the princes gave him rods, one for every tribe, and there were 12 rods besides the rod of Aaron. And when Moses had laid them up before the Lord in the tabernacle of the testimony, he returned on the following day and found that the rod of Aaron for the house of Levi was budded, and that the buds swelling it had bloomed blossoms, which spreading the leaves were formed into almonds. Moses therefore brought out all of the rods from before the Lord to all the children of Israel, and they saw, and everyone received their rods. And the Lord said to Moses, Carry back the rod of Aaron into the tabernacle of the testimony, that it may be kept there for a token of a rebellious children of Israel, and that their complaints may cease from me, lest they die. And Moses did as the Lord commanded. And the children of Israel said to Moses, Behold, we are consumed, we all perish. Whosoever approacheth to the tabernacle of the Lord, he dieth. Are we all to a man to be utterly destroyed? Now the context there is that there was a rebellion against the authority of Moses, and they were saying that they were unsure that Moses was in fact God's representative. And God proved to them that Moses and Aaron, his brother, were in fact God's representative by having this miracle of the flowers blooming overnight before the ark. Okay, and then I also want to point out here this last verse, Whosoever approacheth to the tabernacle of the Lord, he dieth. So God said, listen, take this blossoming rod that I just showed you with this miracle that proves that Aaron and Moses have my authority, and place it in the ark as a perpetual reminder that you should stop complaining to me lest you die. Those are the words of God. Stop complaining lest you die. And the Israelites lamented that anyone who approaches the ark, he dieth. Now, that's important. Let's keep that in mind. Okay. Moving on to the story of Our Lady of Guadalupe. Of course, we all know it so well. Juan Diego was going to learn catechism class. He was going through the Mexican wilderness, and then he saw Our Lady or a light on top of the Tepeyac Hill outside of present-day Mexico City. And then she appeared to him. I'm only going to recount some of the words that she said. There's variations to her words based on translations, I'm sure. I've heard this so many times, and it's never been contested. So I'm assuming this is accurate, if not slightly translated differently, but it's still accurate. I'm sure you'll agree with me. But if you don't agree, I would like to hear about it because I don't want to say anything wrong. Okay, this is from purportedly from Our Lady of Guadalupe. Know and understand well, you the most humble of my sons, that I am the ever virgin Holy Mother, Mother of the true God, for whom we live, of the Creator of all things, Lord of heaven and earth, of the heaven and the earth. I wish that a temple or a church be erected here quickly, so I might therein exhibit and give all my love, compassion, help, and protection, because I am your merciful Mother. I will give him, the Lord, to the people in all my personal love, in my compassion, in my help, in my protection, because I am truly your merciful Mother, yours and all the people who live united in this land, and of all the other people of different ancestries, those who love me, those who seek me, those who trust in me. Here I will hear their weeping, their complaints, and heal their sorrows, hardships, and sufferings. Now, the context of that, of course, is that she asked Our Lady asked Juan Diego to tell the bishop of the diocese of that point, all of Mexico, to build a church there. And then as proof, she eventually offered roses that blossomed overnight, because Juan Diego was up on top of Tepeyac Hill either a day or a couple days before that. Presumably there were no roses there, but they were there that final time, so they had to have bloomed quickly and miraculously, because they don't bloom that quickly, and they don't bloom in December, right? So it was a miracle, obviously. So there's the flowers blossoming before Our Lady, and those flowers those are one of the signs that he was to give to the bishop that was proof that he was the representative of Our Lady. Just like how the flowers that bloomed on Aaron's rod were proof that Aaron and Moses were also God's representative. And then the tilma that Our Lady gave her image on Juan Diego's tilma, as we know, has been miraculously preserved as a perpetual reminder to us as well. So this, though, I'm going to draw the parallels now. In the Old Testament, of course, we've seen the flowers bloom miraculously, but our Lord said in the Old Testament that put that rod in the tabernacle as a perpetual reminder, so it's going to be there always, to always remind you to stop complaining to me lest you die. And then the Israelites say that we can't even approach the ark lest we die. Our Lady of Guadalupe is doing the same thing, but in a beautiful, merciful, inverse way, where she says, I want people to come to a church that's going to be built here so they can come to me, and that I will hear their compassion. I will be compassionate to them. I will hear their complaints. The word complaint is specifically used by her. In the Old Testament, it's don't complain lest you die. And here the New Ark is saying, come to me, you'll live, right? So you can see the correlation, the contrast. Whoever approaches the tabernacle of the Lord, he dieth. But you can say in inverse way, he who approaches Our Lady will live, or liveth. It's beautiful. It's just so beautiful. Okay, I think those are some amazing parallels. There's more. If you go to my video, or if you find that book I was referencing earlier, you'll see that I drew some more comparisons as well. Like just before that, in the Old Testament, there was a plague that Aaron saved them from. And then around the time of Our Lady of Guadalupe, there's the smallpox that's raging through and killing massive amounts of Indians or Native Americans. So there's more to it than that, but I'm just going to present that little bit. Okay, now the next part is going to be Our Lady as Holy Wisdom. Let me read here from the book of Proverbs to set the stage, because it's a couple passages. It's like 13 verses from Proverbs. Okay. Doth not wisdom cry aloud? Behold the gates of the city, and the doors she speaketh, and she saith. And I'm going to skip some verses like I usually do, because I don't want to read the whole text. It's too much to read. I'm sure you're going to recognize this verse, though. I was set up from eternity, and of old before the earth was made. The depths were not as of yet, and I was already conceived. Neither had the fountains of waters as yet sprung out. The mountains with their huge bulk, had not as yet been established. Before the hills I was brought forth. He had not yet made the earth, nor the rivers, nor the poles of the world. When he prepared the heavens, I was present. When with a certain law and compass he enclosed the depths, when he established the sky above and poised the fountains of waters, when he compassed the sea with its bounds and set the law to the waters, they should not pass their limits. When he balanced the foundations of the earth, I was with him, forming all things, and was delighted every day, playing before him at all times, playing in the world, and my delights were to be with the children of men. Now therefore, you children, hear me. Blessed are they that keep my ways. Hear instruction and be wise, and refuse it not. Blessed is the man that heareth me, and he that watcheth daily at my gates, and waiteth at the posts of my doors. He that shall find me shall find life, and shall find salvation from the Lord. But he that shall sin against me shall hurt his own soul. All that hate me love death. And that's the book of Proverbs. All right, I want to point out here that the book of Proverbs was written in the latter part of the Old Testament. And also there's other wisdom books as well. You have the book of Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Wisdom and Ecclesiasticus are the, and also I believe Job as well, but they're the wisdom book, and they're all written in, well, Job is not, but the other ones are written in the latter part of the Old Testament, and keep that in mind. All right. Now, in church history, I pointed out earlier in this video that Our Lady is Holy Wisdom prefigured. Holy Wisdom is Our Lady prefigured. Right, I said that right. Okay. In church history, in the latter part of church history, I should add one more thing. I forgot to say this. Is that the books of Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Wisdom, and Ecclesiasticus, they contain compilations of wisdom. Like when you read through them, you read snippets of wise sayings. You know, blessed the man that trusteth in the Lord, and they'll give examples. And it's just on and on of different snippets of like little, like you call them sound bites of wisdom. So they're compilations of wisdom all throughout those books. In church history, around the same time, near the latter part of church history, you have St. Alphonsus de Liguori in the 18th century, shortly before the French Revolution. He writes the Glories of Mary. And the Glories of Mary are what? They are a compilation of stories about the new Holy Wisdom, Our Lady. I love that. It's one of my favorite books. Two of my favorite books are the Glories of Mary and St. Louis de Montfort's True Devotion to Mary. Both of them written in the latter parts of church history, both of them glorifying the new Holy Wisdom. And I point out just a second ago that the Glories of Mary is a compilation, just like the Old Testament wisdom books. So I love that. St. Louis de Montfort wrote many books about Our Lady: True Devotion to Mary, The Secret of the Rosary, and the one I just mentioned, The Love of Eternal Wisdom, which he specifically compares Our Lady to Holy Wisdom. So that should end that debate. And there's many others as well. All right, now I want to talk about something else concerning that passage I just read from the book of Proverbs. If you notice that Holy Wisdom was present before God made the world. So you have all the images from Genesis, the creation of the earth and the sea, the fact that the sea was set so it couldn't go beyond certain limits. That's specifically a reference from the book of Genesis. And that, so she was present there as he was making the world and even before it. Now, in the New Testament, we've all heard that our Lord is called the new Adam, and Our Lady is the new Eve. So remember, our Lord says on his way on the Via Dolorosa, he says, "Behold, I make all things new." So there's a way to understand those creation language metaphors, like the earth, the sea, the sun, the moon, the stars, the trees, right, or the grass, in a metaphorical way, in a new creation kind of way, right? So in the Old Testament, there was a new creation of, the first creation of the natural world, and the Gospels are a new creation in the supernatural world. And that's why, just as Holy Wisdom was present at the creation of the first creation, the natural creation, Our Lady, who is the new Holy Wisdom, she came before the creation in the new supernatural order, and that would be the church, right? So, Our Lady was present. She predated our Lord, like she was walking the earth before our Lord was born. And then she was present all throughout the Gospels as he was establishing the church, the new supernatural order. And it kind of to show you how this might work, and there's no math to this, it's more poetry as usual. In the book of Isaiah, there's a mention about the grass, okay? It says in Isaiah 40, it says, all flesh is grass, and all the glory thereof as the flower of the field. The grass is withered, and the flower is fallen, because the Spirit of the Lord hath blown upon it. Indeed, the people is grass. If you can see the people as grass, then you can have the earth, the sea, the sun, the moon. And I would think of it this way. So the sun in the Old Testament, or in the natural order, I should say, it gives light and warmth to all of the created order. Similarly, in church history, you have the analogy of light as truth. You've even heard that yourself, I'm sure, the light of truth. Let's shine the light of truth on this pagan nation or on such and such people. So the one source of truth is the church, yes, of course, but also you could say the papacy. The papacy is the guarantor of the truth. He's like the sun. The sun never sets, except at the end of the gospel or the New Testament, in the book of the Apocalypse, the sun is eclipsed, right? And here we have now the eclipse of the church. We're in this time we've all heard it, the eclipse of the church. So you have the sun, which has always been present, has been eclipsed. And so we can get into that later if you want to. But you also have the moon, right? So in the natural order, you have the moon, which would be analogous to anything that would reflect the light of the sun, but is not the source of the light of the sun. I could say throughout church history, you could say that'd be any kind of Catholic government or anything that reflected the light of the truth of the papacy and the church, but itself was not the church. So you could say, a saintly king. There's all kinds of examples, but you can get the idea of how this could be applied. What is the earth and the sea? Well, in the book of Daniel, there are 4 beasts that come out of the sea. So the sea, and those 4 beasts are pagan empires. There's the Babylonians, Persians, Greeks, and the Romans. So the sea would have to be, and by this kind of thinking, it would have to be like the pagan nations of the world, outside or apart from the earth. And thereby contrast, the earth would have to be, in the Old Testament, the people of Israel, or the nation of Israel. And in church history, therefore, you could say that the sea would be the secular governments of the world, and then the earth would be the Catholic diocese system or anything like that. But you get the idea, Catholic kingdoms. All right. So you have trees in the book of the Apocalypse, or in the creation language metaphors. Trees grow on the earth. And in church history, you'd have things that would grow and spread out. I would say like the Franciscan orders or the Dominican orders. They started out small, like a seedling, and their branches grew and spread out all over the earth. They're not on the sea, but only on the earth. So you get the idea. And I just I think it's so neat to think of it that way, because remember, Our Lady is the new Holy Wisdom. So if the first Holy Wisdom was present at before the creation of the natural order, then it just makes sense that the new Holy Wisdom would be present before the new creation in the supernatural order. That's a lot of poetry and speculation, but it's beautiful nonetheless, and it glorifies Our Lady. So I'll leave it at that. All right, everyone, have a great week, and I'll catch you next Tuesday. Glory be to God, and Ave Maria.